All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, in Studio 14. If you'd like to give us a call, toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV, and our website where you can listen to the X Zone Radio Show, 724-365. www.xzoneradiotv.com. X Zone Nation, this is going to be one of those hours that just fly right by because my guest is a lady I've had the pleasure of talking to a great number of times over the last 23 years of doing the X Zone. Her name is Rosetree. Now, Rose has helped thousands as a teacher and a healer, harnessing the power of deeper perception. Over 350,000 copies of her books are in print, and she is known for the innovative system at the leading edge of mind, body, spirit. They include trademark systems for aura reading, the cutting cords of attachment. Rose has pioneered the first system for training empaths to become skilled and developed the 21st century field of Rosetree energy spirituality. Joining me now from parts unknown, but she is on this planet, that I can promise you, is my good friend Rosetree. Rose, always great having you with us here in the X Zone.
Hey, Rob, thank you so much, my friend. What a delight and what fun to hang with the X Zone Nation that you've created.
Well, it's been created by people like yourself because people want to know what is going on, because so many people have a feeling inside, a stirring inside, that society and religious philosophies just aren't cutting it anymore. People know there's more to life than they have been told. They get this yearning inside, this thirst for knowledge. And it's people like you, Rose, who are helping people to better understand why they are having those feelings and what they can do to empower themselves and enrich their lives.
Sounds good.
Do you want to buy your book?
Which one?
How many books do you have now?
There are about 10 of them in print at this time, and there are 2 that are soon going to be paperbacks. Right now, they're only ebooks.
Wow.
Ebooks. These are for empaths. They're the leading edge of that work that I'm still doing to empower empaths. And wow, do more people know about the word empath than before. And yet some of those conversations are apparently a little bit like the blind leading the blind. So it's important to not only know a little bit about being an empath, but know enough to help yourself. That, I think, is the really good kind of education that people can get for themselves, and I can help.
Are there closet empaths? And I'm going to tell you why I just asked you that question. I was downtown today doing some business, and a lady walked up to me, and she said, "You're Rob McConnell." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You're the guy that does that X Zone stuff." I said, "That's right." She says, "I just want to thank you so much." I said, "I'm glad to help, but what did I do?" She said, "For so many years, I thought there was something wrong with me. I was getting these feelings, these impressions, and I was trying to tell people about them, and everybody thought I was nuts." She said, "And then I heard one of your guests on your show, and it all made sense. I have psychic powers. I can get psychic messages." And she said, "I don't feel like a closet psychic anymore." And she, she gave me a little hug and went on her way. And I said, wow. So this is why I'm asking you if you think that there are closet empaths out there, people who have the empathic ability, but they just don't know what it is.
Well, I do, and at the same time, right away, I think you have said something that brings up a really important distinction for many of your listeners, whether they feel like they're in a closet or not. You used a story about a psychic who gets impressions. An empath is not a psychic. Empath abilities are different from psychic abilities or skills. 1 in 20 people was born as an empath, and many of us have gained real skills as an empath. I'm one of them. I teach those skills, and those skills have nothing to do with being a psychic. So a person who is interested in being a psychic, who's also an empath, I think would benefit a lot from gaining empath empowerment. However, it's not as though this has anything to do.
No, I understand.
Being a psychic at all.
I understand that. I was just using the example that there are people who listen, who, when they hear the story from another person, everything makes total sense to them. Rose, stand by. We're going to be coming back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break. Don't go away. Rosetree is our special guest, the author of 10 books that are out now, 2 that are in e-format that are going to be coming into paperback soon. And Rose, where can our listeners get copies of your books, my dear friend?
Well, there is a toll-free number you can call in America and Canada through the end of the year. It's 800-345-6665.
Great.
800-345-6665. Or you could just go to the Rosetree website.
Which, by the way, is a great website filled with super information. Rose, we were talking about, I used the analogy of the lady who was having what she thought were psychic impressions, and when she tells somebody, people thought she was a little off the wall, so she didn't say anything until she heard one of our guests on the show a couple of weeks ago, and it all made perfect sense to her. Does the same thing happen with people who are empaths?
A different thing happens. See, 1 in 20 people on Earth now has been born as an empath. And if you were born as an empath, you were not born as a skilled empath.
Right.
You're simply born with 1 or more trainable gifts for directly experiencing what it's like to be other people. So many empaths don't know that they're empaths, and whether you know or not, unless you have skills, every day of your life, you're doing something that's technically called unskilled empath merges that result in astral level or subconscious level deposits in your own energy field that can throw your personality out of whack, create difficulties of various kinds. But the wonderful thing is that if you have this talent, it is such a tremendous kind of talent to have. It can help you gain so much wisdom, help you deeply be of service to other people. All that's required is to learn to get skills, the same skills that help you to stop suffering, and then you can use your gifts as they really can be used. So it's totally a blessing, even though sometimes before people gain skills, they worry about it, or they might even call it, quote, a curse, unquote. But oh no, it is wonderful. It's wonderful to be born as an empath.
How does one know that they are that 1 in 20 and that they need to get the skills?
A simple thing to do is just go onto my website, rosetree.com, and then go to the blog, and there are several different quizzes there. There's a top 10 list of our most informative posts for empaths, and then there are books that I have made available. One is called Become the Most Important Person in the Room. It's a 30-day plan for empath empowerment. So those are resources available right now, and this is the leading edge of skills for empaths, I suspect, and it is really the most life-changing of all the skills that I help people to gain. It's so much fun, too.
Can you give us an example how being an empath can change someone's life?
Oh, gosh. Well, becoming a skilled empath
Right.
changes a person's life. So in that way, there's lots of stories about what people have reported to me, how they do better in relationships and they have a stronger sense of identity. But then the other thing is that when you have empath skills, you can do the deepest kind of deeper perception and be extremely accurate and perceptive. So if you've ever wanted to be the kind of friend who is mega perceptive, or you've been some kind of counselor or therapist, or you do some kind of mind, body, spirit healing, or maybe you are a professional psychic, any field where you are helping other people, it's extraordinary how when you have the full set of skills, then you can do what's called a skilled empath merge with any person you want, in person or through a regular photo, and learn so much. Now, this is not prediction type information. This is about the person at the time of the photograph or when you're together. And if you go onto my blog, you can read many, many skilled empath merges that I've done and some guest posts by other people. It's really the biggest fun you can have with your clothes on to do a skilled empath merge.
You know what? You open so many doors when you have an interview with me. You know, you just
The
mentioned
bathtub.
Well,
yes.
yeah, but you just mentioned, you can have so much fun with your clothes on. Well, what kind of fun can you have with your clothes off?
Gee, the man with the 8 grandchildren, you're asking me?
Hey, I didn't open that door. You did. I wouldn't have said it that way.
There are many techniques for skilled empath merge that I've developed and that I teach people. For instance, in the new book, The Master Empath. Mm-hmm. And so you can use any of those techniques with your choice of discovery person, and you learn so much. I mean, just to take that slightly blue idea a little bit further, there is this saying people have, quote, to know somebody in the biblical sense,
yes.
unquote. You've heard that, Rob,
sure have,
right?
Sure, yeah.
And, that suggests an intimate kind of knowledge we think of as sex. However, what if you could kind of flip that around and consider that sex is one way to deeply know a person. Mm-hmm. However, with your consciousness, without having sex with a person, fortunately,
right.
you could have, not that there's something wrong with sex, but you can do skilled empath merges and be totally faithful to your spouse and not have a lot of complications and learn in such a profound way. It's just extraordinary. Anybody who wants to can become a really good aura reader. I train people to do that with a system called aura reading through all your senses. So anybody can have access to subconscious level information in tremendous detail about things like integrity and what a person is like as a friend, mm-hmm. and emotional giving versus emotional receiving, and spiritual growth, and what is a real authentic path for that person, and when a person is shut down. I mean, loads of information is available to anybody who just gains basic energetic literacy. However, the 1 in 20 people who have been born as empaths can do it even better in the sense of more detail, more immediacy, more information. So that's part of the tremendous privilege of being born as an empath.
Now, Rose, for someone to become an empath who knows what they're doing, if they take the proper procedures and they learn how through what you do, how long does it take?
It could take a weekend. It could take a couple of weeks. It depends which way you want to learn. The point is that it's all in the direction of increasing your sense of identity as a human being. And just to give you an idea of perspective here, one thing I've found is that unskilled empaths are less effective in life compared to non-empaths. Less effective. But skilled empaths, in many ways, are more effective. So it's kind of worth the bother that it seems like the only way God can give somebody a gift as an empath is to have it installed in the switched on position. So becoming skilled as an empath, it actually has 3 parts, Rob. One part is to learn which gifts you have. And I've identified 15 different types. Again, you could take a quiz at my blog as one way to learn more about this. However, finding out if you're an empath and which kind of empath gifts you have is only the first step of 3. The second step is a really oomphy one. The second step is when you learn how to use your consciousness to turn your empath gifts off as a matter of habit. You see, empath gifts are a little bit like one of those light switches on a wall, and either it's on or it's off.
Right.
You know what I mean, that kind of switch. Mm-hmm. And so empaths are born with all the gifts switched on, and it takes consciousness, just a very effortless little shift in how you use your simple human awareness to have it turned on. And this is very much simpler than many of the things I'm finding on the internet people are recommending for empaths that can be like a whole full-time job. This is a simple thing. So part 2 is learning to do this simple thing until it comes naturally. And then the third part of becoming a skilled empath, which is optional, but not too many people who do step 2 don't want to also do step 3. Step 3 is when you learn how to do skilled empath merge on purpose for just a minute or 2 at a time, to get powerful knowledge that can help you in business, in your love life, in all your relationships, and you don't get stuff deposited in your aura. So that's what the range is of this trademark system that's called Empath Empowerment. And when I started teaching it, I had the privilege of writing the first book in English for empaths. And by now, there's lots of people who are empath coaches. There's thousands of people on Facebook who are joining support groups and telling each other what to do. And just today at my blog, we had a guest post from a woman named Christine who said for the last 2 years she's been following empath conversations on the internet, which I frankly haven't been doing. I've been busy with my website and my clients and my books. But Christine has been following it, and she complained that there is a situation kind of like the blind leading the blind, people who are advising in ways that are maybe not so responsible
right.
or so practical. So it's helpful if you are going to have advice from someone who purports to be an empath coach. It'd be nice to check the credentials of the person. It'd be nice if the person actually can read auras or do skilled empath merges, because that's such a good way of finding out who's for real, what works, what doesn't work, what just sounds good and isn't so good. You get the idea.
Yeah, I do. And of course, you know that if it's on the internet, it has to be true, because people lie on the internet, would they now? Hey, Rose, you and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. It's always great talking to you. I love your energy. I love your laugh. It's just a great time when you're visiting back home here with us in the X Zone. X Zone Nation, Rosetree is our special guest this hour. www.rosetree.com. That's www.rosetree.com. And Rose and I will be back on the other side of this news break as we continue here in the X Zone, investigating the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, you can always listen to the X Zone 7/24, 365 at www.xzoneradiotv.com. And please go to our online petition. Sign your name at www.stopebolapetition.com. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. I was speaking to Professor Frank Boyle in the first hour of tonight's show, and he was telling me that another 3,000 reservists have been now called back to active duty by President Obama, and they are going to be going to Ebola-ridden Africa to work with the 4,000 soldiers that are already there. So our prayers and our thoughts of goodwill and safety are with each and every one of them. Come home safe and sound, will you, people? Rosetree is my very special guest, www.rosetree.com. And we were talking about empaths, the first segment. But I'd like to just touch on something you talked about briefly, Rose, and that's aura reading. Is the aura what the great masters painted as halos on people?
There's even more. Not that those folks couldn't paint, Rob.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
The way... Yeah, really, I wish I could do that. Still, I can read auras, and I can teach anybody who wants to become a really good aura reader. And the way I would define it is like this. You've got your physical body, and around that you have many extra bodies made of electromagnetic energy and full of information. Well, that whole set of energy bodies together is what your aura is, not just the part at the top of your head. It's three-dimensional. You could compare it to like the layers of an onion, only of course you smell better. And so aura reading means downloading information from a person's energy field. One of the things that many people don't know yet, because they haven't really developed full energetic literacy, is that a regular photograph contains your aura. It doesn't have to be a fancy aura picture. Any regular photo. And if you go onto my blog, you can read for many, many happy, thrilling hours about aura readings of people through their photos. Sometimes by me, sometimes by people who've done guest posts because they've learned how to do it too.
Wow. I've only seen the photos that were taken by these special cameras, and it shows an the aura around the body. If it's energy, can people like empaths, is this where they get their source of information is from this energy field that is around the person?
You're close.
Okay.
See, there's this technical thing called an empath merge. An empath merge can be skilled or not skilled. Why don't I give the example first, if I may, of what an unskilled empath merge is and what that has to do with somebody's aura. And, Rob, this is just a super question. No broadcaster has ever asked me that before out of the 1,020 media interviews I've had so far before today. So thank you. You are a peach in so many ways. Now, so imagine Joe, who is alive and has an aura, of course. If you're dead, you don't have one, but, you know, you don't need the body anymore either. So anyway, Joe he's got his aura, and there's Gladys. And Gladys is an unskilled empath. She doesn't even know she's an empath, as most empaths still don't. And they're in a room together. And in less than 1 second, what happens to Gladys many times during the day is an unskilled empath merge. And if you were to picture it, it would be like this, that her aura expands and becomes bigger than Joe's aura and surrounds his in something kind of like an energy hug.
Gotcha.
And then her aura kind of snaps back to the normal dimensions just around Gladys. And when it comes back, if she isn't skilled as an empath, then when her aura comes back to normal, she has in her energy field what I call imported stuff, or a particular kind of stored astral level, garbage, emotional and energetic debris that came from Joe. Temporarily, Joe might feel better. For example, Gladys might often have friends say to her something like, when I'm in the room with you, when we hang out, I always feel better. And yet what's happening to Gladys is she's getting junked up energetically, and she's going to have to deal with that imported stuff. And meanwhile, it isn't true healing for Joe or whoever that other person is. It's only a temporary respite because Joe didn't get authentic energy healing. He just got a little temporary clearing, within a few hours, every bit of that stuff will come back. I could give you a story about an acupuncturist that would make that a little more vivid, or maybe
Sure.
you'd rather take this line of inquiry somewhere else.
No, I'd love to hear it. You've got my interest.
Okay, this was a student of mine when I was teaching empath empowerment in Tokyo. And she mentioned during the workshop, through an interpreter, she basically said like this: I'm a fantastic acupuncturist, and I'm an amazing empath. And when my clients come and I am putting the needles into them, I feel what's going on in their bodies, in my body, and I know exactly what's going on with them, and they start to feel fantastic. But for me, I'm always getting exhausted from this, so I have to go and lie down and rest for half an hour. And then when I come back, in the room they tell me they don't feel better anymore. So I want you to teach me how I don't have to take that nap so that they can feel better. She was just very confused, and she was doing a lot of unskilled empath merges.
Wow.
I've actually helped at least 2 professional acupuncturists who are very, very talented empaths, and both of them have written short essays that are in my new book, The Empowered Empath. At the end, there are 10 success stories by people, and both of them have their stories in there. The point is, when you're a skilled empath, you're not doing those aura-level hugs. Instead, you're more like a non-empath. Your aura is your own business, and you're not giving people these energy hugs, and you're not picking up their stuff and having it become your problem and not even helping them. And then if you have skills for helping them, like being an acupuncturist, you could just be the acupuncturist. However, if you decide to become a skilled empath, then what you can do is, in the first minute or so with your clients, you can do a skilled empath merge, and then there's a kind of protected hug where you have a lot of divine support, not astral support, a small technical point that's meaningful to me. And anyway, you do this very brief hug, but you're conscious when you do it, and it's over very rapidly, and you get no imported stuff. And wow, do you get information about Joe or whoever that person is as your discovery person at the other end of the empath merge. So that's why you can have a tremendous advantage in life for helping people and using whichever skill sets you use to help people with, or just for your own knowledge.
It's fascinating. This is really interesting.
Thank you.
Something else that you and I touched on the last time you were with us, and we ran out of time, and I gave myself a little note so we could talk about it this hour. Cutting cords of attachment. Is that
good? Let's talk.
Yeah. Is that the luggage that people bring from one relationship to the next, or one life to the next?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We don't have cords of attachment from other incarnations.
Okay.
Now, we do have cords of attachment in this life, and it does impact our relationships and our self-esteem and just about anything, depending on what is in a particular cord of attachment. What you've asked, though, with that 2-part question, let me share one of the biggest discoveries I've made in 2014. As somebody who's been involved in this field that's now called Rosetree Energy Spirituality, and I've been doing sessions since 1986, this discovery is that I've by now identified 15 different kinds of stuff. Stuff being this term I use for stored emotional and astral level debris at a subconscious level that limits life for people in ways that we consciously notice and suffer from. So there are these 15 kinds of stuff, and by the way, at the homepage at the rosetree.com website, right near the top of the screen, you can click onto a link to that article, because so many people are beginning to sense energy, Rob, and know that there are things that are kind of not quite right inside somewhere energetically, but they don't know really what it is or what to do about it. And I'm a consciousness nerd, as you may have noticed, so I have developed and co-created skill sets for moving out different types of stuff And one of those types of stuff that's only from this lifetime is called cords of attachment. And yes, I have the only trademark system in America for cutting cords of attachment, and I've actually published a couple books now on how to do it for yourself. And the simplest is called Cut Cords of Attachment for Self-Healing.
So what are these cords of attachment then?
Practical question indeed. When you first get interested in a particular human being, like Joe or Gladys, and there's only, if you think about it logically, Rob, there's only going to be one time in your whole life that happens. The first time you're interested in that person. You could meet in the room, you could read about the person's website, you could listen to a radio interview. Anyway, when you become interested for the first time, if that person you're interested in is still alive and has an aura, because remember, dead people don't have auras anymore. So if that person is still alive, then there are these two energy structures that you will have connecting you to the other person, say hypothetically to Joe. So one of those things that you automatically have, just because both of you are human and alive, it's called a spiritual tie. This is a tube of energy between you and the other person, like Joe, and over time it gets bigger and bigger, and it contains a complete history, rich in energy, of all the sweet, lovely things between the two of you. And boy, I bet I got quite some spiritual tie to you, Rob McConnell. Anyway, that's a spiritual tie. Then the other thing that happens simultaneously, just as we live on Earth where we have sunshine and shadow, we don't just have a spiritual tie, we have this separate structure, which is a cord of attachment. You get one cord of attachment per person, per lifetime. It contains something that can change over time, but it's always part of an incident or maybe a couple of incidents where it has been especially upsetting to you, given who you are. And whatever's in that cord, it recycles through your subconscious mind and your energy at least once a day, often much more frequently, until the last minutes of your life, even if the cordee, that other person like Joe, is now, quote, dead, unquote, you'll still have that cord of attachment, and you will suffer in ways related to what's in that particular one. However, when you get skills, or if you go to a professional who really has skills, then it's possible to cut any cord of attachment permanently, so you will never have a cord of attachment to that person again.
You said if a person is dead, they don't have an aura. Does that include vampires?
I've never met a vampire. I've never researched a vampire. So I wouldn't be able to answer. Not qualified. Sorry, Rob.
Thought I'd ask.
I know a lot of people are called vampires today, actually. You've heard that term like psychic vampire or energy vampire?
I believe in them because I've met people that as soon as you go near them, you can feel the energy just being sucked out of you.
Well, I don't believe in them, although I believe in you. And what I would say as somebody who works very technically as an aura reader and facilitates aura healing is that there are good reasons to notice that kind of experience, Rob, and it is very disturbing and distressing, and there are definitely ways of protecting yourself, and there are real things that are happening, but it's not necessary to elevate that person into a boogie man or boogie woman or booger person or vampire, because when you have skills, 15 kinds of stuff, and lots of things that you can do. So that's what I call stage 1 energetic literacy reaction. In other words, when people just are beginners at aura reading and they haven't developed their talent yet, then there's noticing things like all the energy gets sucked out of me or I feel terrible. However, anybody can get stage 3 energetic literacy and know more specifically what's going on. And if you add skills about kinds of stuff and how to recognize them and how to prevent them and how to heal them, woo, you're well on your path to enlightenment. You could feel a lot better. And so I definitely don't want to criticize anyone who's been worried about so-called vampires, but I will say from my perspective, that's a fear and not using abilities that you could use to have a good life. People really don't have the power to destroy you that way.
All right, just give me a sec here. Craig, put the gun away. We don't need the silver bullet anymore. We don't need the wooden stakes anymore. And the holy water, take a swig of it. It may do you good. Rose, you and I have to take a commercial break. It's our final break for this hour. Exo Nation. Rosetree is my special guest. And if you'd like more information on Rose, if you'd like to get any of her books, take any of her courses, all the information is at her website at www.rosetree.com. That's www.rosetree.com. And Rose and I will be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV. And of course, you can always listen to the X Zone at www.xzoneradiotv.com or by calling 213-401-0080. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Exo Nation. If I didn't have gray hair when I started this, mind you now it's white, my producer Craig actually drank the holy water. What can I tell you? Craig, do you feel better? Oh well. I asked him when we were coming back what he wants me to come back with, and I meant the songs he said in Exorcist. Rosetree is my special guest. www.rosetree.com. First of all, Rose, I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's been a great pleasure having you, as it always is.
You're welcome, and for me too.
Continued success with everything you do. We've got about 3 minutes left. What would you like to talk to the X Zone Nation about?
Well, the most practical thing I could talk about is that tomorrow I will add a blog post about this interview, including a link, and providing an opportunity for any of you listeners who have questions to ask your questions. It's quite a lively and very sweet community over at the blog off of the Rosetree website. We have about 20,000 and a half comments so far.
Wow, that's great.
So it's lively, and you're invited to join us. And then you might want to check out some of those books that I've worked really hard to make it easy for you to learn from. If you want to learn aura reading, or you want to learn empath skills, etc. There's lots of resources for you. It doesn't have to take a lot of time or money. It's not hard. Lots of people have learned this, and really, you can too. So I want to encourage you to develop your deeper perception and move forward with your aura working really well, and maybe also the skills to be able to tell when it's working and when it needs some help, and the skills to provide that help if you want. It's all possible.
Now, we were going to talk about energy spirituality. Can we talk about that for a couple of minutes?
I'd love to. Sure. This is the mind-body-spirit system that enters into helping people through emotions by co-creating with the divine. A lot of mind-body-spirit work is done as energy medicine, where people address physical things, and it's wonderful. However, it's also powerful to have healing that moves out subconscious level, astral-type garbage that limits emotional life and causes suffering. And one of the most exciting breakthroughs in this field that's now called Rosetree energy spirituality, because we just had to add my name to it because since I started energy spirituality, lots and lots of people are doing it in different ways. Anyway, with this particular kind, one of the nice things that's developed in the last few years is that we started to find some members of this informal online community are actually moving into a higher state of consciousness called enlightenment. And you can learn a lot about that at the website as well. You can learn about it in other places too. More and more people are hearing that concept. And it's my belief that those of us living now are among millions of souls who came into Earth expressly to move into enlightenment and do it as householders now.
Rose, I want to thank you so much for joining us. A great pleasure talking to you. My very best to your family. And you know what? I just can't wait until the next time you're with us as we both talk about enlightenment, auras, empathic visions, and of course we'll have to do face reading the next time you're with us. Until then, my friend, take care of yourself and be safe.
Thank you. Sending you love.
Take care, dear. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away.